There are only 4 weeks left until the fantasy football playoffs, which means thousands of people are going to have to actually do work during their day job. Let's talk about some of the waiver wire pickups for week 10. We're going to talk about bye weeks, injuries. We'll talk about quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. We'll also talk about some defenses now for the first time. I got a couple streamers at the end of this video for you guys. I'm Ron from Never Lucky. Thank you for being here. I truly, genuinely appreciate it. Like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you want to catch more of this. Let's start with some bye weeks, man. We got some major offenses off the board this week. Bengals, Cowboys, Titans, Chiefs. Obviously for the Bengals, a bunch of big names: Flacco, Chase Higgins, Chase Brown. Those are all, 4 guys that people have been starting. We got the Cowboys, we got Dak, Lamb, Ferguson, Pickens. Titans, I don't know if you were really relying on Titans, but Tajay Spears has been kind of a fill-in. Pollard, people have been using. And then the Chiefs, man, Mahomes, Kelsey, Rice, Worthy. Maybe you were also starting Kareem Hunt, right? So we need to figure out what to do in these bye weeks. Let's also quickly discuss some of the injuries. We got Tucker Kraft out for the season. Torn ACL confirmed yesterday. That shit sucks, man. Tucker Kraft was a dude that I was targeting in a lot of late drafts. Somebody that has been performing super well, and he's out. CJ Stroud, concussion, likely going to be out. Matthew Golden's shoulder, he's day to day though. Let's see what happens. That's obvious boost to Romeo Dubs, potentially Christian Watson if he can play. He's also injured, but he's also day to day. Kayshon Boutte, hamstring injury, likely out. I saw a tweet that he said on his Discord to his Discord community that he should be fine. It's only a grade 1 hamstring strain. The fact that NFL players have Discord communities, man, like, I don't know, we're just in a different world at this point. Aaron Jones, shoulder strain, could play. He said he's fine. He was quoted as saying he's probably fine. Puka Nacua, chest injury. The team did say that he could have came back in the game if it was a closer game. He was on the sideline with his helmet on, so I think, good news for Puka. I do think he's probably going to play. He's getting some x-rays, though. Let's see. Brian Thomas Jr., it says here high ankle sprain, but I'm pretty sure both his hands got chopped off. The man can't catch. The man doesn't get targets. He's just essentially like unstartable, unplayable, dude. What a fall off that, like, one of the best rookie wide receivers we've seen in a while has just essentially become like Darius Slayton at this point. Jayden Daniels, nasty arm bend, no fracture. So there is a dislocation there. So the status is up in the air at the moment. He's getting some more tests. Obviously, you're probably not going to have him for a couple weeks now. So that definitely sucks. That blows. Marcus Mariota, kind of a fill-in, but, play the matchups there. Only in good matchups do you want to start someone like Mariota. Next, we got handcuffs, guys. Look, the way that I approach handcuffs, this is the time of the season. Running backs can start to go down. We see that anytime a handcuff steps in for a starting running back, they're like Adrian Peterson, man. LaDainian Tomlinson, dude. Look at Rico Dowdle. Look at fucking Kyle Monangai last week. It's just insane. I just want to go on a quick little rant here, man. Why don't the teams give 30 touches to the starter? Why doesn't Swift get 30 touches? Why didn't Chuba get 30 touches early on? It just seems like when the starter goes down, the team is like, all right, let's give fucking 150 touches to the backup now so that he can look like an absolute stud. I don't get it, man. It just pisses me off, especially when I don't have those handcuffs. I'm just a salty bitch right now, but let's move it along, dude. These are just the handcuffs I think are high value, guys behind like really good starters on really good teams, where if the starter were to go down, I do think that they'd be just in good situations to produce. Obviously, you want to probably prioritize your own. That's just the way that I like to approach handcuffs. I want to grab my own at this point in the season, man, because if my guy goes down, I want to sleep at night knowing that I have my own handcuffs. Just look through the list here, guys. If you have any questions on like who to prioritize based on like who you have on your roster, join the Discord, post your roster. You're going to get help from not only me, but a bunch of other dope dudes. Actual sharps in the Discord community will give you some help. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes, guys. We got quarterbacks here. Starting at the top, it's not a big quarterback week, to be honest. We got Sam Darnold at the top. At this point, he's got to be on, man. He was fantastic. 4 touchdowns, 330 yards. He's just in like one of the better offenses with one of the better systems. He looks great. He's got like a 93 PFF grade on the season. He is PFF's actually best graded quarterback, right? I don't know if you guys trust PFF. I think, they do some good work. Sometimes it's a little bit suspect, but, 20 plus fantasy points. Bryce Young, very desperate, dude. If you're in an absolutely desperate league, he does have a decent matchup against New Orleans. They were playing really well last game. The Saints allow 20 plus points per game to quarterbacks. He's actually a decent like streamer this week, but, I wouldn't spend a lot. Definitely less than 5% fab. JJ McCarthy actually looked decent and gets a pretty decent matchup. I will say the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar, their defense is a lot better. So they're not, I don't think they're the same matchup we want to focus and target all the time. But, if the Ravens end up blowing them out, he might have to throw more. He didn't really throw very much in that first game, but he looked good when he was throwing. Aaron Jones is also banged up. So there's a chance that the Vikings actually have to throw it a little bit more. So he's actually a pretty decent streamer. I know it's a tough matchup because the Ravens have just been playing better. Next, we got running backs. Look, I used to make fun of Kyle Monangai, but he earned me calling him by his first name. Kyle Money Guy against the New York Giants, 60% owned. Most likely he was picked up last week and started. Hopefully you guys started him against the Bengals. It's like one of the best matchups in the entire NFL, but he's only still 60% owned, so he might still be out there. 199 total yards in week 9. The Giants allow the second most running back points per game. So they had the Bengals. Next, they get the Giants. If Swift gets held out again, he's a top 10 play. He just looked fantastic. He was making plays that even Swift doesn't make, right? He was like breaking tackles like crazy. He was running in between the tackles, which is something that Swift isn't really his forte. Swift is more of an outside runner, more of like a receiving back. Monangai, dude, there's a chance that even if Swift plays, Monangai gets probably 50% of the work. Even before the Swift injury, he was getting a lot of work, man. So honestly, if your waiver wire's thin, but Monangai's out there, I'd probably just dump the fab on him up to 30%, probably more if you really need a running back. Like for me, for example, if Monangai was on my waiver wire in my really important home league, I'd drop everything I had on him. It's speculative, but there's a chance that they just give the more of the backfield to Monangai based on how he performed. Man, 199 total yards week 9 cannot be ignored. Emari Demercado, I added him today in the morning because 10 carries for 56 yards. He outplayed Bam Knight, who went 8 for 29. And we don't know if Trey Benson is going to be back this week. Emari Demercado made like one mistake, right? He was running toward the end zone. He went straight Adonai Mitchell, dropped the ball before he entered the end zone. A couple of angles looked like he actually went into the end zone. Maybe it should have been a touchdown, but nevertheless, man, 10 carries, 56, outplayed Bam Knight, who went 8 for 29. Bam Knight did get some goal line. Emari Demercado was not out there for every goal line touch. So Tank Bigsby up next, 26% owned. Saquon Barkley had a groin injury before the bye week. We need to see what's up, man. We need to see the injury reports in this week to see if Saquon's going to be out or not. The Bears do allow 20 plus points per game to running backs, 10 to 15% of your fab. Probably less if you're in a league where people don't spend a lot. Maybe people are kind of broke at the moment. Dylan Sampson, 15% owned, explosive. I did see a report yesterday that Judkins should play this week, that, he already started practicing on Monday. So Dylan Sampson's kind of just speculative. I think he's still a decent ad because I do think they trade Jerome Ford away. The deadline is today, man. So we're going to see some action. We're going to see some heat. Unfortunately, this video is probably going to get published before the trade deadline ends. So stay tuned, man. Like and subscribe so that tomorrow we'll cover some more news about the trade deadline and kind of what to do based on some of the trades. But he's a receiving back, nevertheless, somebody that did get a lot of work last game before the bye week when Quinshon did get injured. So I want to pick him up. I want to see what happens. Isaiah Davis, look, he's the backup to Breece, but he had 12 touches before the bye for 109 yards. Looked really good. There's still a chance Breece Hall gets traded. We don't know. I saw some reports that said he's probably not going to get traded based on how good he looked and how well they played in that one game, which is kind of dumb to me, bro. They should just trade him, dude, because it's the last year of his contract. He's probably going to walk anyway. And it's a tough matchup, right? So I don't really want to play Davis against the Cleveland Browns, but I do want to pick him up to see what happens. He's kind of a prio, but the trade deadline is going to pass before waivers clear. So either way, you're going to have to wait to see what happens. And then by then, the way the fab bids might go out of control, right? Blake Corum, only 9% owned, but 13 touches in 2 straight games. He's somebody that they want to get more plays. The Rams are always in the end zone. They're always on the goal line. They score a lot of points. They're getting touchdowns. Blake Corum, if you're like super desperate, you can always start him at like your third flex, and maybe he gets you like 7-8 points, maybe with some upside if he gets a touchdown. Kyron Williams must have dirt on McVay, dude. McVay must be in the Epstein docs or the Epstein flight logs or something, man, because the commitment that he has to Kyron Williams is insane, dude. He's not that good of a running back. He's not very explosive. I think last game he busted off like an 18-yard run, and it was like crazy, dude. The whole crowd was humming because Kyron just doesn't do that very often. He doesn't have a lot of explosives on his game. But I do want to stash him because he is like a high-value handcuff. Going back to that handcuff list, he's one of the more valuable ones. Terrell Jennings, dude. Holy shit, he vultured a touchdown from Trevion Henderson. I deeply apologize to everyone. I was telling you guys to just start Trevion. It's like the 1 week you probably could start him. 1% owned. Listen, this is a good team. They score a lot of points. They have a good coaching staff who puts them in positions to score points and score touchdowns. And this coaching staff just wants to piss off every Trevion owner. So at any chance they get, they want to vulture touchdowns from him, never make him a full-time guy. And if Ramondre Stevenson is out again, 10 touches, man. It's definitely on the docket. Wide receivers, we got Christian Watson, 30% owned. Big play upside. He made a couple big plays in the last game. He's banged up himself, but Kraft is out for the season. Golden is out. He's day-to-day with that injury that he has. Christian Watson, man, he stepped into a full-time role, essentially. Took the job straight from Matthew Golden. Why the fuck did they draft Matthew Golden in the first round to turn him into like a wide receiver 4? I don't get it, but that means we have to go after Christian Watson. He's probably the priority wide receiver on this list. I know that Parker Washington is also stepping into like a wide receiver 1 role if Brian Thomas misses, but Christian Watson has way more upside on a much better offense. Our next up, Parker Washington steps into a wide receiver 1 role. Brian Thomas Jr. and Diami Brown were both banged up in the last game. It is a tough matchup, but I think the slot role for this Jaguars team is probably one of the roles you want to attack the Houston Texans defense. Then we got a couple guys that are probably owned, right? Alec Pierce, 26%, dude, 28 targets in the last 3 games. His route tree has definitely developed. He's running a lot more in-breaking routes. He's not just like a one-trick pony deep threat anymore. He gets the deep shots as well, which is really good. Pause. But he has a low catch rate on those, right? Like he's gonna catch a big one once a game, right? It's a tough matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. They were a good defense. They're not as good at the moment, but Alec Pierce, dude, if they're going to be in a negative game script, which the Falcons, any given week, their defense can show up, their offense can show up, they can play with a lead, Bijan can be feasting, and maybe the Colts find themselves in a negative or neutral game script yet again. That means Alec Pierce, man. That means Pierce, Downs, Pittman, right? Troy Franklin as well against the Vegas Raiders, 48% owned. He's probably owned in most like sharp leagues, but he has the same target volume as Pierce and also the same volume as Cortland Sutton, dude. He actually is out targeting Cortland Sutton on the season. It's a startable matchup against the Vegas Raiders, who are actually decent against the run. They actually have a decent defense in general. But at this point, we kind of have to pick up Troy Franklin and probably start him every week, right? This is a really good offense. They're winning games. Troy Franklin is out targeting Cortland Sutton, man. Next, we got Horton. Here's a who. Tory Horton, Mr. Dr. Seuss himself against the Arizona Cardinals. 3% owned. I told you guys to stash him last week. Now he's probably going to be the top waiver wire pickup of the week because he did have like 18 fantasy points. I think there are probably 2 outs here though, right? Like he might have played himself into a full-time role, even if Cooper Kupp returns. But if Cooper Kupp doesn't return, it is wheels fully up, dude. This is an offense I want pieces of, and it's a really good matchup. Honestly, you can see this 10% fab recommendation here. You could probably bump that up to like 20 to 25%, man. If you're in a league where it's really thin and he's like one of the only wide receivers out there, I'd spend what you got to spend, dude, because he's looked great all season. He had like 4 touchdowns in the first 5 weeks of the season. Then he didn't really do much. This could be his breakout, man. We got the last 4 or 7 weeks of the NFL fantasy season. So this could be a situation where Tory Horton, at the end of the season, we look back and say, fuck, man, that shit was so obvious. We should have been picking up Tory Horton as soon as Cooper Kupp got banged up. And we saw those early reports because he could be a league winner, man. Demario Douglas might find himself also in a number 2 role, only 5% owned. He was the wide receiver 2 in New England when Butte was out last game. He had one of the dopest touchdown catches where he caught the ball, and for like 60 straight yards, the man was falling. He was in free fall. He could not regain his balance, but he just kept running, dude, like horizontally, like a fucking Naruto character. Got into the end zone. That shit was dope. But as I mentioned, Butte did tell his Discord community that it's only a grade 1. So let's see. Maybe he'll miss a week or 2. But that, vaults Demario Douglas into a very prominent role. It was already prominent. We already saw it in the last game. So we got to pick up Butte, somebody that I would definitely want to start in a really good offense with a really good quarterback and a really good system. I think Demario Douglas is going to be very serviceable. Look, Calvin Austin came back and was like decently involved. He's only had more than 8 PPR points once since week 3. Very boom bust. It was Roman Wilson the week before. Then it was Calvin Austin this week. DK Metcalf didn't do shit. It's kind of an offense I don't really want to touch, but if you're absolutely desperate, man, against the Chargers, who are really good, probably going to lock down DK Metcalf again, Calvin Austin might profit from that. He might benefit from that. Let's speed this up, man. Let's speed this up, dude. Tight ends. I have Dalton Schultz at the top of the list, but honestly, Colson Loveland is probably the cream of the crop, as well as Luke Musgrave. Well, let's start with Dalton Schultz, 26% owned, 21 targets in the last 3 weeks. The reason I have him here is because of the volume. The Jaguars just gave up 40 points to Bowers. Bowers is tier 1. Look, Dalton Schultz, he's only playing football as a side hustle. So those are 2 completely different players. I'm not saying Schultz is going to repeat what Bowers did, but it's one of the best matchups for tight ends, man. They've given up so many touchdowns to tight ends. For this week only, Dalton Schultz is at the top of the list. Let's talk about Juwaan Johnson against Carolina. He was like the number 3 first read for Shuck. So that's really good. Olave kind of took a backseat in this one. He doesn't get the most volume, but he's a touchdown threat. He's a guy that's really good in the end zone. He's always been good in the end zone. But Colson Loveland, dude, we got to talk about it. 23% owned, 31 PPR points in week 9. He's undervalued, dude, because Cole Kmet came back and Loveland then did this, right? But Cole Kmet then went out of the game with a concussion. Look, it was a little bit fluky, man. He caught like a 60-yard touchdown to win the game at the end of it. But even before that, he was still good. He had like 18 fantasy points. He was involved, dude. And it was at the expense of Rome Odunze. Let's keep in mind, this was like a 90-point game between the Bengals and Bears. It was 90 points combined between both teams. So, Colson Loveland having 31 fantasy points, he was just the guy that hit, right? In every game, if there's 90 points scored, there's usually somebody that has like a 30-point fantasy performance on each team. It was Higgins, it was Loveland. Some of the other guys didn't do as well. That's just par for the course. But season long, I am definitely excited about him. They get the Giants, which is a pretty decent matchup for tight ends. Next, we got Luke Musgrave. Very difficult matchup against Philadelphia, but let's keep in mind, dude, Luke Musgrave was actually ahead of Tucker Kraft on the pecking order before Musgrave got injured, and then Kraft kind of took over, showed his yak ability, and just kind of took the job for Musgrave. But Musgrave was drafted ahead of Tucker Kraft. he was their guy before that, so he's definitely capable. He's definitely a good tight end. I would definitely put him in like the top 16 just in terms of like talent, right? So he's in a good situation. I don't think he's going to take over what Kraft was doing, definitely, but he should be targeted enough. We're going to end this with some defenses to target, guys. I got the Cleveland Browns against the Jets. That one's easy. You just want to target teams against the Jets. Then we got Panthers kind of feeling themselves. They just beat the Green Bay Packers, which was insane. Now they play the Saints with Tyler Shuck, so could be another really good defensive streaming option there. Then I got Jaguars. I've been kind of poo-pooing on them. Their defense has really been trashed the last couple weeks, but they play Houston, who are probably going to be starting Davis Mills. So, but I will say, dude, Davis Mills is not one of the worst backups in the NFL. He's actually kind of serviceable. He's more of a game manager. He actually can throw the ball a little bit. So this is not like a smash start, but you know, if it's thin out there for defenses, that's definitely a matchup that I want to look at. That does it for the video, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me your time. I truly, genuinely appreciate it. Let me know what players you guys are targeting on the waiver wire, how much fab you're looking to spend. Discord link down below. Yet again, guys, if you want your questions answered, it's a dope community of people. A lot of sharps in there. We're helping each other with sit starts, trade advice, waiver wire, all that good stuff. Make sure you guys join it, introduce yourself, let the boys know who you are. Now let's talk ball, man, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.